What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out New York 1901 from Blue Orange Games. This is for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 plus. It'll take you about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And in New York 1901, you're going to be taking control of a construction tycoon and building buildings all around the city. This is Blue Orange Games' first foray into heavier family-style games. When I say heavy, I mean family-style. A la Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, that sort of complexity. Plays 2 to 4 players. It's light. It's coming out at Gen Con this year, but is it good? Let's open it up. Check it out. Alright then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of New York 1901 from Blue Orange Games. First and foremost, we have a handy dandy rule booklet. It is 8 pages, double-sided, full color, and it's pretty well done. It could be better. I wish there was some more clarification on a couple things, maybe an example here or there, but needless to say, it's still a pretty good rule booklet. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. Next, you're going to get this little game initiation sheet. This is for people who have kind of never played any other games before. I would highly recommend skipping this if you've played more than 2 or 3 other games. This is really for entry-level people who haven't played any other games. For everybody else, I'd recommend just playing the base game, but minus the bonus challenge cards, and the rule booklet says as such. So in New York 1901, you're going to have this beautiful board in front of you, which is going to be a recreation of New York circa 1901, and you're going to be playing as skyscraper tycoons who are going to be building skyscrapers on buildings all over the city and trying to get the most points. Now, you're going to be scoring points by building some of your various different tiles on the board, and also at the end of the game by controlling different areas of the city, or potentially if you move in the bonus challenge cards by having a bunch of various other different things. And I'll get more into how that works in a little bit. So we're going to go over the components, and then we'll get a little bit into the gameplay, and I can probably teach you how to play because it is a very simple game. So first and foremost, you're going to have 4 colors. You're going to have yellow, red, green, and blue, and you're going to grab all your stuff of yellow, and I'll go over what you're going to grab. So first, you're going to have your little score tracker, which is a skyscraper. This is a very nice added touch. They could have just went with a cube or something like that, but that's just your score tracker. I like that an awful lot. Next, you're going to have 4 of these custom little miniature workers. Now, these guys are going to be holding plots of land for you, because on your turn, you're going to be able to either build a skyscraper, but if you can't build a skyscraper, or if you choose not to, you can just bloop, set them down, and reserve a spot of land to let other people know, hey, that's my spot, don't touch it. Next, you are going to get tiles, tiles, and more tiles. And these tiles are going to come in 3 different varieties. First, you are going to have bronze tiles. These are going to be the ones you're going to start building with. When you first start the game, you can only play down these bronze tiles. They have nice little pictures on them, but the important thing to take note is that they're either bronze, silver, or gold, and also how many points you score. So when I play down this tile, for instance, right there, I'm immediately going to move up 2 points on the points tracker. So there's bronze, and once you get to 6 points right over here, you'll be able to build these silver tiles, and they will come in all different shapes and sizes. And then once you get all the way over here to the golden 18, you guessed it, you'll be able to build golden tiles, which will generally give you more points and are sometimes harder to build because they come in somewhat odd shapes. So you're going to get a whole bunch of these tiles, and I do want to mention that this is one of the end trigger conditions, that once someone has played all but 4 of their tiles, that will trigger the end of the game, and everyone will have 1 more turn to go. Next, you're going to get these bonus action cards. So I have my yellow ones. You're going to get 3 of these, and I'll go into what these do in a minute once I explain a little bit of the gameplay, because right now it wouldn't make much sense. So we went over everything you're going to get. One last thing that you're going to get is you're going to get one of these tiles randomly. Now, you would think that if you were green, you would get the green one. Not the case. You're just going to randomly go ahead and draw one of these. And then, so for instance, if I drew Daisy Madison, I would go over to this pile of cards over here, and I would take a red card out of there, and then I would place my beginning building, which is this one right here, and I would look for the butterfly symbol, because she has the butterfly symbol, and I would place it right here. I don't know why these are included in the game. I'm sure it's some sort of balancing issue, but once you've done that, you really have no need for Daisy anymore. You can just flip her over, and this will show you what you can do on your turn, or I can tell you, because it is a pretty simple game. So, continuing onward, you're also going to have these 4 golden tiles over here. And these are going to be big community tiles that anyone can build. As you can see, they're going to score you a lot of points. But look at their size. These things are going to be really hard to play because they are pretty massive and you have to control that big plot of land. However, if you can do it, you're going to score a lot of points. So if you're able to successfully build one of these, you will put one of your trophies on there to symbolize that it is yours, and you will be happy. So those will be out. Everyone can look at them, ogle them, and fix them and see if they can possibly fit it somewhere on the board. So the last thing you're going to get, you're going to get cards, cards, and more cards. So there are going to be 3 kinds of cards in this game. First, you're going to have these micro cards, mini cards over here, which are going to come in all different colors, red, blue, tan, pink, green. And most of them are going to have 2 plots of land on them. And so what that means is if you acquire one of these cards, so for instance, if you acquire this pink one right here, that is now your plot of land. You now own a 2 plot of land. So you could have this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. Any one as long as no one currently has it, or there's not a building on them. Now there are also some special cards which will have 3 on them. They'll also have this little symbol. So as you can see, this would be a green one right here. These ones, when you come upon them, they are more rare. So for instance, there are only 3 of these cards in the deck because boom, 1, 2, 3. There are exactly the right number of cards as there are spots on the board. So take that into consideration. So next what you're going to have is you're going to have 2 other special kinds of cards, which will be right here. The first one are going to have street names on them. And these are going to be bonus points that you can score at the end of the game. So for instance, this one is Broadway. If this card were out, whoever had the most skyscrapers or buildings touching Broadway right here would gain the 5 additional victory points. When you start up the game, you're just going to randomly shuffle these up and deal out 3 of these cards. And this is going to impact where you decide to play your tiles a lot of the time. Last but not least, we have the bonus challenge cards. These will drastically change up the game. I highly recommend playing the base game 2 or 3 times before you get into these cards. These cards are a lot of fun, and they will completely change how you play the game depending on which one you get. But you're going to put one of these out, and these will impact all sorts of crazy different things. Some will, like have bronze building, whoever has the most gold. Some will like encourage you to play next to buildings that are weaker than you. So if you place a gold next to a silver, you score bonus points. They really change and drastically impact the game. So let's get into how the gameplay works, because on your turn, it's going to be very, very simple. You're going to have one of 2 options. The first option you have is that you can acquire a piece of land over here. So I'll just go through a mock turn right here. So I would go ahead and I'll say, you know what, I'm going to take this one right here. And so now I own a tan piece of land, and then I can either have it one of 2 options. I can either go ahead and place a worker to claim a plot of land, like so, or I can go ahead and just place a building if I can. It just so happens I have a bronze building right here, and I can play that, and actually I think that one's bronze, and I could go bloop right there, and I would immediately score 2 victory points. Hooray for me. My turn would now be over. I would replenish the cards over here, and the next player would go. They would probably take that green 3 right there, because that's a really good spot. Now, the other option that you have is that you can demolish and rebuild. So let's just say, let's say I've got this, and I've got this right here, and I have acquired, 8 points. So let's say I have this right here, and it's my turn. Now I have the option that I could either A, acquire one of these cards over here, or I could demolish these 2 buildings and build this silver building right here, and boom, score 6 points. Now these buildings would completely be out of the game, they're gone, but this isn't a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. You don't lose any points, and in fact you're going to be doing this quite frequently. However, I do want to mention a couple rules. When you decide to destroy a building, you have to upgrade. So I could not go from this silver and then build another bronze right there. It has to upgrade, and you can never destroy a gold. That is a very important rule, because let's say that you had everything ready to build this big bad 13 right here, but you, for instance, had a gold right here. You could not build it there because you can't destroy a gold, even to build another gold. But anywho, on your turn, you are either going to A, place workers to reserve plots of land after you've acquired said land, or B, place your building there if you acquired that piece of land, or C, you can destroy your already built buildings and build new buildings. Now, let's get back to these special ability cards. So there are 3 special ability cards. You can use these only once during the game, and once you use them, they go away. If you don't use them, they'll score an additional victory point at the end of the game. So, for instance, if I use any 3 of these, I would gain 3 victory points. I highly recommend using them. Just a little pro tip. So this one is going to allow you to acquire 2 pieces of land from over here. on your turn. However, be forewarned that you cannot acquire a 3 plot of land. Next, this one is going to let you build 2 spots on your turn. Normally you can only build 1 spot, so that's pretty useful, especially towards the tail end of the game. Last but not least, this one is going to completely wipe all 4 of those cards out, and then you would get 4 new cards, and you would get to pick one. So those are going to be the special ability cards. So in this game, you're going to be placing down plots of land, keeping track of your points, and at the end of the game, you're going to see who controls which and where streets. You're going to get those bonus points, and whoever has the most victory points will be the winner of New York 1901, and that in a nutshell is how the game is played. Alrighty then, New York 1901 from Blue Orange Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, the game's not going to be for everybody. It's for 2 to 4 players, very restricted player count. If you play with 5 or 6 players consistently, might not be for you. Also, I do want to mention that 2 players versus 4 players is a drastically different game. 2 players is much more, I don't want to say solitaire, but it's much more you do your own thing. You're trying to maximize this and make sure you get all the different shapes. Whereas in a 4-player game, it's everybody's just jumping all over the board and taking your spots and blocking people and doing this and doing that, and it's just a crazy, hectic game. Now, I like both player counts, 2, 3, and 4, but I do want to mention that they are drastically different. Also, another issue that I had with this game, which I found very surprising, was that people who are prone to analysis paralysis can have lengthy turns, which is surprising because the gameplay itself is very, very simple. You only have 1 action to do on your turn, but there's surprisingly a deep amount of things that you can do that you have to pay attention to in this game. You know, what's on the board? Which tiles have been taken? How many workers do I have? Which streets do I need to focus on? And don't even get me started. Once you get in those bonus challenge cards, those completely blow open the game wide on all the different strategies in the game, and I like that an awful lot. But some people with analysis paralysis, you might want to put a timer on their turn. One more thing I want to mention about this is the rule booklet is not as good as I would like it to be. It's not a bad rule booklet, but I wish there was just a sentence or two just eked in here and there to help clarify things, maybe put an example here or there. It's not a bad rule booklet, but it could be better. Not a deal breaker, though. So the last con I have, the last group of people who might not like this game, is if you were into strictly heavy games, this one might not be for you. 30 to 60 minutes is definitely about right. I'd say on your second game, it's going to play even quicker than that. And while there are a lot of things to think about and a lot of decisions, if you like heavy, meaty games, this one might not be for you. So moving on to the pros, New York 1901 is Blue Orange's game's first foray into big box games, family games like that, and they knocked it out of the park. I am very happy to say that this is a spectacular game that will go immediately onto my shelf, and there's a couple main reasons why. The first one is it's extremely simple to learn and to teach. You can have this game up and running once you've set everything up in about 3 minutes, just explaining the rules, because you really just say, all right, you're going to either take one of these cards, put a building there, put a worker there, or destroy one of your already constructed buildings and build new buildings. And then when you get to this point, you're going to be able to build these buildings. And when you get to this point, you're going to be able to build these buildings. And eventually you want to build these big buildings. And people are like, oh, okay. And they'd be like, oh, but pay attention to these 3 cards up here because those are streets that are going to score you bonus points at the end of the game. And if they don't pay attention to those 3 cards, they can still potentially win the game anyway. But other than that, it's a very, very simple game. But at the same time, as I mentioned with the analysis paralysis points, there's quite a bit to think about this game. Like when you first start playing, you're like, okay, I see, but there's not really much here. But then once you get into the game and you start realizing, oh, I need to be placing this weird piece, and I have to acquire this land and do this land and decide when I play my special cards, and all that sort of stuff, it really has a surprising amount of brain burniness to this game. And I like that an awful lot. Another thing is components. From top to bottom, everything inside this box, you can tell it was done with love. The artwork is outstanding. The board is bright and vivid. I didn't show you, but on the back of the board, they got these really cool illustrations on it. Completely unnecessary and pointless, but really cool nonetheless. Box insert is nice. Everything about this game is very nicely done, and it shows that it was a labor of love. What else do I like about this game? 30 to 60 minutes, it says that and it sticks to that. There's going to be no 90-minute games here unless somebody has terrible analysis paralysis. And once you know what you're doing, this game plays very briskly. This is going to be one of my wife's go-to 2-player games. It's easy to set up. It plays lightning quick, especially with 2 players. Overall, New York 1901 is one to keep your eye out for. It's coming out this year at Gen Con 2015. I think it is going to be one of the darlings of the show. I personally am giving it a hearty recommendation. If you like games on the same weight of Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, that sort of games, absolutely check out New York 1901 from Blue Orange Games. So, if you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below. And in the comments below, let me know, have you ever been to New York? Me personally, I've been there, I think, 3 or 4 times. One or twice. Twice, I think I was in Buffalo, so I don't know if that really counts. But I absolutely adore New York. I just love the busyness of everything. I don't think I could ever live there, but I love visiting, once every couple of years. I can't wait to take my son there when he gets older. But you, New York, do you like it? Have you been there? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. That was a review for New York 1901. For more reviews and previews, check back at Bauer's Game Corner.